Hello and welcome to today's episode. Today's episode is quite special and quite exciting because we're going to be talking about things that will allow us to put Creatio product on so many screens. Today we're talking about Portal, different kinds of Portal, different capabilities, and as part of our inspiration, I've invited Elena, who's going to help me demonstrate some of the capabilities of the Portal. We will show you what a potentially finished product may look like and what kind of features you could expect to receive from a finished Portal. So Lena, welcome to our episode today.
Hi, Kirill. Thank you for having me. And today we will talk about portals. So let's jump into that.
All right. So show me what you've got. I see that you've got some presentation for me, or you've got some slides, picture. Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So
In Creatio, we have three types of portals. We have a self-service portal, we have a customer portal, and we have a partner portal. So these are three separate licenses, and portal users are licensed separately. Portal users will have access to Creatio, so they do get access to Creatio application, but in a limited capacity. That allows you to extend the access to the application to a lot more users without spending as much on licenses, because again, these users will have only a small portion of Creatio available to them. Let's talk about what will be available depending on the license.
So hold on. The only difference, Lena, the only difference between the portals is essentially the license, and the reason that we want to have Portal is so we can save on full license, and we want to go to a reduced license to offer, as what I presume, reduced capabilities of the product. Is that correct?
Yes, portal users will have reduced capabilities. They will have access to only limited number of sections. They will have limited access permissions in general of what they can do in the system. But at the same time, you're still extending your application to more users, which allows them to either create cases or create other types of records. And you can automate a lot of processes with those types of users that only need very limited access to the platform.
Okay, well, I was just trying to get a general idea of why I would want to use a portal. So from what I understand, a portal is essentially a way for us to offer limited capability to a great number of people and save on licenses rather than buy full-fledged license, which is buying some sort of a portal license, and I'm sure you'll cover that in your presentation. All right, let's move on. Perfect.
Yeah. Let's talk about all the three different licenses and how they can be used and what they give access to. So first is our self-service license, and self-service portal is available with the Service Creatio products, and it extends access to knowledge base and cases. So self-service portal users will be able to create cases directly on the portal. Then they can see how the case is processed. They can communicate with the customer support team and basically see how the case is resolved. So instead of emailing, calling customer support, you can extend, you can use portal users, you can allow people to register on the portal and basically create those cases there. You can also share some valuable information with them, for example, like frequently asked questions that they can use to find the answers themselves. That's what the knowledge base is for. So that's what we can use it for.
Okay, and the self-service portal, these are the only two sections that you can expose to a... Okay, all right, makes sense.
So this is the smallest portal license that we have. Next one is the customer portal, which gives you more. It gives you the knowledge base section. It gives you three custom sections that you build yourself. For example, you can create sections to process other types of requests in the system. And if the product includes document section, it's also going to be available for the portal user. And the customer portal is available for use with any Creatio product. So it can be used with Studio, it can be used with marketing, it can be used with sales. Service as well.
What about all the other products that Creatio builds? Let's say financial services. Would it also be available there?
Yeah, it's going to be available there as well.
Okay, perfect. All right.
So,
Good.
and last but not least is the partner portal, which was developed based on our own partner portal and requested by a lot of the clients. And it allows you to extend leads, opportunities, orders, and marketing activities to your portal users and to your partners, basically, and collaborate on those with your partners. So instead of using multiple systems or integrating with something else, your partners can log into their partner portal, register leads, opportunities that they bring in terms of the market, in terms of the partner program, and basically then level up in their partner program and collaborate on those sales so we can work together to close that deal, so we can see what's in the pipeline and work together as from our main company and with our partners on using this
Okay,
partner portal.
so essentially a partner portal is for us to exchange data in reference to leads, opportunities, orders, and various marketing activities. So the partner portal is, I assume, targets relationships within the different organizations who want to collaborate on the sales pipeline. So this is
Yes.
the part. Okay, so I understand that. And then the customer portal is, well, as the name suggests, it's something that presumably your customer could use, but the customer could be internal and external customers. So it could be other departments, let's say, within the organization. So if we do not want to buy licenses, let's say, for every single employee, then we can presume that they're portal employees, and then perhaps they can do some stuff, and we can expose. I see you've put 3 custom sections plus knowledge base and the document section, so that's quite useful. So I assume at that point we can create some sort of a custom document management system that allows us to completely automate this whole paper and eliminate the paper, essentially, right? So would we be able to do something like that?
Yeah, basically you can automate your processes and extend the record management to portal users. And one thing that I do want to point out, that the self-service portal can be used together with the customer portal licenses. And so this way you will get knowledge base, you will get cases, and you will get 3 custom sections and document section if that section is available in the product, in the main platform. So for example, if you're using it with service, documents is not available in that product, but if you're using it for, say, bundle or service plus sales, then you'll get the document section as well.
Okay, but what do you do in cases where, let's say, you have a relationship that calls for a partner license or a partner portal license, right? So you want to maintain that relationship, and you want to automate there something, but then at the same time you're also needing, let's say, cases, because your partnership is not just on the sales side but also on the service side. So how would you go about it? Do we just simply create 2 separate users and say, well, this fella is for sales, which is probably going to be the case in any organization anyway, and then the other person is going to be in charge of cases, if there are any, or how would you go about that type of a case?
Yes, you'll basically then end up with the 2 users, because per user you will have 1 license for a partner portal, and then you have 1 for self-service, basically.
Okay, and these users, when we create them, do we just create them within the system, or do they fall under certain structure? Do we put them within as part of an organization, or how do we manage the users? Or maybe if I'm running ahead of the show,
Yeah.
maybe you have something prepared for us. I'm very curious about it.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about how to manage portal users, because it's a little bit different than managing your regular system users.
Okay.
You do create organizations and you do assign access
All right.
rights for that. So
I'm looking forward to that part, very much so. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Let's move on.
not a problem.
All right,
Actually,
let's move on.
let's jump into the demo part and basically take a closer look at what the portal user can do.
All right.
And okay, so I've logged in into the portal. using one of the portal users I've created. I just want to show first what the portal user sees, and then we will dive into the setup details. So we'll take a look at what I had to do to make this happen. So my portal user has access to this request section, which is my custom section. So right now,
I see. I can tell by the icon that you've used.
so, and in this section, what I'm using this section to process different types of requests. So let's say I have a big company, and I have even internally, I need people to log in and create requests for vacation. I don't want to have paperwork in terms of them sending something via email. I want them all logging into one system and creating these requests so they're all stored in one place. Basically, their interaction with the system is quite limited. They don't need anything else. Maybe they need knowledge base, but again, their main purpose is to log in and to work with these requests of different types. For example, I can do vacation requests, I can do business trip requests, and then go through the process of approval.
Okay, Lene, and I assume that this is a portal section already. So what you're showing me now is that within one section, like in a regular application, we can create multiple types of pages. So, so we're not really limited to just one vacation request, and then the other section for, let's say, financial request, and the other section for some other request. So they can all be kind of grouped together under one umbrella called requests, and you can have multiple types of requests, and that's perfectly valid within the context of Creatio Portal, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
You can have multiple pages within the same section, so it's not that one page per section. There's no limitation like that.
Okay.
So you can bundle together things that make that should be processed together within within one object. So
all right. Let's jump in. So are you going to show us what's inside the record, or create a record? Let's create a record.
So I'm gonna create a new vacation request.
Okay.
As you can see, by default, all of these fields are pre-filled for me. So my portal user doesn't have to go think about what the category is, what the type of request is, which company there. Maybe I have multiple companies under in my system. I have the contact listed here. So my contact and my user is Andrew Baker, and I have his job title and his department. So if I need to track basically who his department manager is, things like that, all of that will affect basically how my case is processed. So later on, I'll request the approval from the manager.
Okay, and that's interesting because you're using a portal page right now to create a request, and yet the information is coming from what I presume is not a portal segment of the database. So a portal user has, you told me previously that the portal user requires some sort of or has a limited scope in which he or she can access the database, but here it appears that we're bridging that gap, and the portal user can read those records. How does that work? Am I understanding correctly, or is that a separate table that you had to build to put those contacts and departments, or is it coming from the main one?
It's coming from the main objects. I didn't have to create separate objects for contacts or for the accounts. Again, portal users have access to the main Creatio application, to those objects. They have limited, in limited capacity.
Okay.
They cannot have full access the way system users do, and it's not even, it's limited on the license level. So that's set up. Okay, so here, if I try to save right now, for let's say, for example, my portal user doesn't know what to do, and I'm providing some sort of guidance for him. I'm providing validation that, for example, please do not leave this blank, your vacation start date. Do not create a request that doesn't have a start date. So
smart.
I'm trying to guide the person in understanding what needs to be filled on this page before he or she leaves.
Okay.
So let me put a vacation, let's say from Monday to Friday. I can select the type, whether I want it to be paid or unpaid, and click save. So as
Okay.
you can see, previous request was request number 9. I guess Andrew was the last one to create another request. And now he created one more.
And I assume that we can configure permissions in such a way that only Andrew and whoever else needs to see these requests will be able to see them, and that the other portal user will not see them. So I assume we still maintain that level of access control?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Right now, Andrew sees only his own requests. But my system users, actually, I've shared permissions and made sure that they can view portal user requests because they need to process them. So you have to configure that as well. You need to make sure that your system users will see the records created by the portal users because they will be the ones processing them.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay.
Oh, and if I open this again, you will see that I'm showing more fields now that were pre-filled based on a process that was built. So once I have my creation date, I have my due date, so Andrew can know when to expect a resolution on this request. You can see that there is a subject that generated. So again, whoever is processing the request will not have to deduce what needs to be done here. The subject is automatically created and Andrew doesn't have to fill the subject. Again, I'm providing a quite easy template that's where we add our dates, number of available days. Well, currently Andrew has 0. We'll need to double check that. That comes from his employee record. So,
okay. So maybe he doesn't have any request,
maybe
any
that,
days left. Okay.
yeah. So
Interesting.
maybe he needs to be denied paid vacation, and he needs to
How
take
how did you do that? How did you do this subject line?
That's done with the process. So let's
Okay.
move to our main system user and take a look under the hood and take a look at what was done
Okay.
before
All
Andrew
right.
could create the request. So I'm switching to my main user now, so you can see that the look of the application is something you're probably more familiar with if you haven't used the portals and use only the application from the main user perspective. Now, let's take a look at the section that we looked at before, requests, right? From the system user perspective.
Oh, you've got more here.
Yeah. As you
Okay.
can see, I have 2 requests from Andrew. I have one from another user. So from my system user perspective, I'm seeing the records generated from portal users and from system users, again, depending on how I configure my access permissions.
Okay. Okay. And
Now,
can we take a look at we just created request number 10, I believe. Can we take a look at the permissions that were assigned to him? So can you show me permissions that are on him right now? Okay, so you've given access to Andrew, you've given access to all employees, Andrew all employees, and Andrew all employees. Okay, so so does that mean that Andrew can go and delete this request now? So let's say while we're sitting in this stage, so Andrew can still go and modify it, I guess. Not much has happened to it, right? So that's reasonable. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we can control this just like any other application or any other record in the system, or at least it appears that we're controlling it in exactly the same way. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, so
good.
So here's the record, by the way, from the system user perspective. Note one thing, that the page is a little bit different. The portal page is a separate page schema. So you can configure which fields you want to include, which fields you want to remove, how you want to position them on the page. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as the system users, the page for system users. It can look different. You will still use the fields that you have in your main object, obviously in your request object, but the page design can be drastically different.
Okay.
And because from Andrew's perspective, the way he fills out this form, it worked better to have the start date and the vacation end date at the top of this information, and then add the subject, because again, we tried to guide him through this record, how to work with this record.
Okay. And do you have any tools, some wizards that can help us with this, or do we have to do it in a more direct way and just write code, or did you Did you have to write code to do that, or no?
For this, no. All of
Okay.
this is done with the section wizard.
Oh,
So let
nice.
me quickly show you that. In the section wizard now, once I open it, or once I open my section, you will notice that portal is configured separately from my main section. So my section and all the section pages are here.
Okay, so you've got, for your internal users, can have two types. So you've got a vacation request and a business trip request. And then you've got a separate section for portal altogether. Okay, and oh wow, and in here you can configure two more pages. So you've got 2 pages for internal users, and now you've got 2 more pages for external users. So you've got a total of 4 pages now.
Yes,
Okay.
they are separate pages. So again, you don't have to duplicate all of them, but those pages that you want to share with the portal users, you need to configure separately. And
Okay.
remember that if you have business rules, you have to configure them separately for each page instance.
Makes sense, because the business rule is by default attached to the page, and therefore if we have 4 separate pages, we have to have 4 separate rules. Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a way for us to, when you're creating this portal page, are you able to take your internal page and just copy it, or do you have to start from scratch?
Well, with the system, you have to start from scratch.
From scratch.
When you,
Okay.
yeah. So to do that, by the way, how probably the question is, well, how do you bring the section to the portal? Because
Yes.
that's the question number
that-
one.
Right.
Well, to do that, you need to go into the system designer, to your workplace setup, and then find your portal workplace.
Oh, so just like the normal section that we have to add to a workplace, even if they exist, we just have to add them, right?
Well, with the regular section, you first create it and then you add it to the workplace.
Right.
With a portal, in order to get it to the portal, basically you already have the section. So you click on the plus sign, you find the section, and you get it to the portal.
Okay. Okay. And which ones can and cannot be transferred?
For example, contacts and accounts you cannot share with your portal users. Those sections, again, are not available to portal users.
Okay. Okay. But my custom sections, like you said, 3 of my custom sections, okay. I'm recalling back to the slide that you've shown us a little bit earlier. Okay. So that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and once you do that, once you add your your custom section to the portal workplace, a section wizard will open up, and it will allow you to configure the page. So yeah, and then you start with a fresh page, and you have all your existing columns, which you need to then position on the page.
Okay. And is there something we need to do in the back end in the configuration to address the fact that it's now a portal entity that maybe turn something on or turn something off, or Wizard essentially takes care of everything that we need to do, and we just follow the simple guide and then configure the page for ourselves?
The wizard takes care of that, so you don't have to go into the configuration. You just save it through the wizard, which takes a lot less time than any changes.
Of course, of course. Okay, so that makes sense. So that explains me how you create the pages now. And once the pages are created, I assume you can go and modify them in exactly the same way as regular pages. So can we jump into a wizard and then just reposition a couple of fields in the same way? Okay.
Yeah, yes, of course. So let's wait for the wizard to load.
And while it's loading, Lena, like one question I wanted to ask, you said that we can only put 3 custom sections there. Now, one section, depending on the complexity of the section, may contain multiple objects in it. So let's say we're talking about your request. There could be some details that we're attaching to this request. How does that all work? Is that still considered part of one section, or is there another limitation that I need to be aware of?
In terms of objects that are used as details, you just need to make sure that you give access permissions to your portal users. And so basically, depending on the object, if you have trouble displaying it on the portal, you need to double check whether it's allowed to be displayed on the portal. There is a lookup which basically guides which objects can be displayed on the portals besides sections. And so you need to go into that lookup and just double check.
Okay.
Let me
Nice.
see.
I assume it's all in documentation. So.
Yes.
Okay.
We have extended documentation on that. So
Okay. Perfect. That
let
makes
me
sense.
open the vacation request page. I think this is going to be okay.
A little faster from here. Okay.
Yeah. So as you can see, here are my columns. I can reposition them. I can change which ones I want to display, again, depending on the logic. And I'm working with the blank page here. So if you want to design completely different page, you can do that.
Okay.
Based on existing
how can
columns.
I tell now which page is it? Which page it is? Is this a portal page? Is this an internal page? Is this a vacation request, a business request? Is there a way for me to find this information? Or okay, I have to. Okay, I see. So I have to come here and I should see that I am on the portal tab, and I'm okay. Makes sense. Okay, because they all look very, very similar, I assume. So it would be difficult to tell the difference. Okay, makes sense. And we still have approval, and I see that there is a checkbox here, even under portal, that you can wire up approval for this section as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Lena. So thank you. I get it. So you can have an approval section. That's great. You know what? Why don't we switch gears a little bit? And I know when we were looking at the portal, I've noticed that you had a case built there, or at least it looked like a dashboard. Did you build any cases for a portal user? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So I have in this section I have a case, and it's also extended to the portal user. So he will go through the case. 1 second, let's roll back. This is not the right portal. Yes, there it is. Okay. So the portal user has access to cases as well, and can see how the case is being processed, so how the record is being processed. And you can also create tasks for the users to complete on the portal. So for example, here, what I have is I have an activity. So asking the user to check the request details, and when the activity is completed, to send it to approval. So let's go ahead.
So there's
let's
my
say
approval. Okay.
So, and what my user can do is basically complete this activity, say, yes, I checked the details, and I can send this for approval.
Okay. Sounds easy so far, just like regular cases in the regular pages, so nothing different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly like that.
Oh, I see.
So, and if we return to...
And I, as a user, I can even see the status progression, right? Okay, so
yes,
just like the normal ones. Okay, perfect. Makes sense.
Here, if we return to the requests, now in my notifications, I have 2 notifications for the request because I've added my own user, the supervisor user, to 2 roles. First is that the employee Andrew has a manager, and that's what the first approval is for. And the second approval is for the head of department, for the sales department, which I added again the same user. So we're switching. We're doing less switching back and forth, and we can do it from the same perspective.
Do you mind showing us how it works? I'm not sure I'm following. Do you mind showing me what you mean with the
case?
Yeah, because I don't understand why you have 2 approvals here. Yeah.
So let me quickly load the case, and I'll show you what we're doing. Actually, the first step that what we're doing on this stage is we're changing access permission. we are removing access permission from Andrew, so he can no longer modify the record, and the approvers will see exactly what he entered in the original record. So here I'm changing my access permissions.
Okay.
And then I'm basically giving the manager access to edit the record, and the department head also to get the access to that record if it wasn't granted originally.
Okay.
So, and then we send it for approval. So we have manager's approval, we have the department head approval. And then after we're done approving, we're going to email the report to the employee's manager, which is going to have a printed version. So if it's necessary to submit, for example, a print form, right, some sort of paper document, the manager can print it out and submit it to the HR department.
So from what I'm seeing here so far, this is exactly what a regular cases would look like. I mean, if I were to design a page or regular case, not for a portal, but for just a normal page, this is exactly what the case would look like. So there's really no difference. So the skill that you have configuring regular pages is really transferable to a portal. So there's not much that an analyst or a developer needs to learn. So essentially the same skill works on both, on the page and the portal page. Is that correct, Lena?
Yes, that is correct. Okay. It's exactly the same case that would be launched for the system user and the portal user. Okay. We are not differentiating between the two. The only way we're differentiating between the cases is by type. So we have request type, vacation request. Okay. And no matter who creates that record, they'll have this case and they'll have to go through these steps. So this is not limited. We're not limiting the portal user in any way, shape, or form for that.
So truly, for those couple of sections that we are allowed to expose, there's really no difference between how we would build a case for a portal or regular page. And for those couple of pages that you do expose on the portal, you can essentially follow the same standard procedures that you hopefully follow by now for the regular pages in your organization. Okay, so that makes perfect sense. Excellent. I see that now. Yeah. Now it makes sense that you're firing up to approvals all together on this stage, and then you're going to be proceeding, I assume, to some other stages. Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but that was something I didn't understand. Okay, we can move on.
Yeah, no problem. So in this regard, the cases are, there are no additional permissions that you need to grant for the case to be available for the portal user. It's going to be available if the record matches certain conditions, if you have those conditions.
Okay, all right.
So then we're notifying our requester that the status changed, for example. And at the end of the case, again, this is quite simple. This can be extended further. You can add a lot more additional steps here. But at the end, we're changing access rights so nobody can modify the case once it was closed. And again, notifying our requester that the case was closed, okay, and that or not granted their vacation. So
okay, cool. All right, perfect.
So pretty simple.
Okay, well, it's quite powerful because that allows us to now engage a much wider audience that previously we couldn't do because we didn't have that many licenses, but now assuming. Now, one thing that I still want to follow up, and that's probably with the permissions. So I see you running change access permissions at the beginning of your approval stage. Are you doing anything specific for portal user, or they're just like normal users, you just take away, you grant, just like you would do for normal pages? Or is there something specific we need to know or bear in mind when we're configuring permissions for portal?
Well, with this process, there's nothing special. This is pretty standard. But in general, access permissions for the portal users are quite different in terms that they're not system users and you need to grant them separately. So let's take a closer look at that, because that's a very important portion of configuring your portal. So let me close this first and let me go into the system designer. So our portal users have their own organizational structures, organizational and functional roles. And by the way, this is probably obvious, But system administrators, even though they're kind of like all powerful users that have access to anything in the system, they are system users and they do not have access to the portal. So if my system administrator wants to see what the portal user will see and how that is configured, they'll have to have a separate user for that.
Okay. Makes
System
sense because
administrators do not get access to.
they're in totally different branches of the tree. Okay, makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So they do not intersect. So portal users have, as our system users, they all portal user role, which will include all the users that are registered as portal users.
Okay.
Then you can distribute your access permissions and based on organizations. And these organizations can be configured per account. So let's say that I want to create an organization for an account that I have in my system. This is going to be ACOM. And so basically all the users that we will register that will have as a contact their primary account as ACOM, and we then add them as a user, will have the access permissions configured for this organization. So
okay. So
for example, if we want to share records between ACOM portal users, we can go to record permissions and say ACOM authors grant access to other ACOM authors.
Okay, and this becomes an organization, like kind of like an organizational role. Otherwise, that you would have to define. Okay, so it makes sense. So everything kind of falls under one organization. So what happens if I bridge organizations? So if I am part of both, so let's say if I guess in that case, that's fine. I'll have either one.
You only have one primary account.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, makes sense. And it's a portal. It's not okay. I'm sure we can figure out for a couple of sections here. It shouldn't be too hard. Okay, makes sense. So portal. So we create an organization, and if my portal user doesn't have an organization, if let's say I'm some B2C business, how would I be able to group these users? Let's say I deal with the consumers. Do I need to create an organization, or just create them in the group, or put them in the...
You can create traditional, basically, roles, not here, but if we return 1 second to functional roles, for example, here we can then create additional organizational roles.
This organization thing, it's just on top of what we already have with organizational functional roles. So if I find it more convenient, I'm free to use it, but if it really doesn't suit me, then I don't have to use it. Okay, so I was missing that point. I thought we had to use it, but that's optional. Okay, makes perfect sense. And I see that portal users, they can also be authenticated with Active Directory and LDAP, right? I see there is a checkbox, so there must be an option to do that as well. Okay, that's perfect. Is there anything else we need to be aware of when we're configuring portal users? Yeah?
Yes, I will mention just one thing again, since we talked about earlier in the session about partner portal. Remember, that's to allow collaboration on leads, opportunities, and orders. Well, for partner portal, to access partner portal, you have to be part of the partners role in your organizational roles. So your organization has to be added here on this level rather than on this level. So
I see what you mean.
Something to keep in mind.
Okay, I see what you mean. So for partners, you have to add it. Okay, makes sense. So it has to follow. All right. And, one thing that throughout today's demonstration, what I have not seen is how do we pick the license? I assume this is a demo instance that you've created, so maybe you don't have licenses, but how would I go about assigning licenses to various users? Is it also the same straightforward process, or?
Well, this is a demo, so unfortunately, my licenses will be empty here. So if I go into my user, I have my licenses. See, there's nothing.
Okay,
This is a
I see. So
demo,
it's going to be just the same standard approach that we take with any other user. Okay, so the portal user is really, in many respects, it's the same as a regular user, with the exception of whatever the limitations imposed upon that user based on the license. So everything that we know about the system still applies. The same things about people reading lookups and system settings and whatnot. And we just limit it in how much stuff we can expose to them. Okay, perfect. And I've noticed that you had some the email business processes there. So I assume obviously we can email that, but you've mentioned that you're going to be sending some sort of an attachment, or you're going to be sending. What did you mean by that? Can you show me?
Yeah, this is actually one of the newest things in 17.3 version. Well, starting with 7.17.1, we've been developing the new element that allows you to process files. And so now it's been updated, and now it can do a couple of things. Well, first of all, it can generate that print form and then save it to your attachments, right? So we want to keep a record of what we're generating, so it stays in the record, just in case if that's.
Can you zoom in a little bit, Lena?
Changed.
I think it's a little too small. If you could zoom in a little. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's just walk through this process since I'm seeing it for the first time. So you read request, you read employee, you read the manager, pretty standard. You calculate number of reports. I'm not sure why you need to calculate number of reports.
Well, I'm assuming that I can generate, for example, multiple reports, right? So, and I want to create a unique name for my report. So this way I can then add a number to the end of that name. So it's 1,
so it
2,
becomes
3,
like a
4.
suffix. Okay, so it's a suffix of the report. Oh, I see what you mean. That's very clever. Okay, yes, because I've seen people use datetime stamps, but just calculating a number makes actually perfect sense. Okay, and then you generate the report.
Yes, so I use this element twice. I do it for first, I generate the report, and here I specify that I generate the report for a certain request, and here I specify my file name. I'll open the formula and show you how it's configured.
Oh, makes sense.
So the file name,
perfect, yes.
Yeah, takes the number of the request,
Suffix.
and then adds the suffix, yes. One thing I will mention, and this is not obvious, at least from the setup right now, before this number, it will add the name of your print form.
All right, so you've got this generate report, you've got the regenerated report. So what do you need regenerated report now, Lena?
If I want to attach it to the email, I need to get it added to the process basically as a collection. And so then it becomes available as an attachment to my email. So that's why I do it in 2 steps. This element saves it to attachments and notes. And this one then retrieves it from the attachments and makes it available for the email.
All right, so why don't we take a look at how this works?
Yeah, let's go back, and I'm going to go back to the request section. And what I'm going to do next is actually let me reject, because Andrew doesn't have any vacation days left. So I'm going to reject this. And then here is that email. So let me close this first. So this is just a very simple email template. And in my attachments, I will see this file.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's very nice. So you can actually now send attachments without tricks that you have to play. Very nice. And now you can do it all within business process. Very nice. Okay.
So, and if I open this attachment,
I assume it's going to be just your report, right?
yeah, so it's going to say
Oh,
negative,
perfect.
negative. So,
Okay, and this whole thing now can be done with business process with all these elements. So I assume you didn't have to write much code. Did you have to write any code for this section?
no.
Nothing. Okay.
Well, in terms of code, we had to do the mask thing. So
Mask.
basically adding the auto numbering to the section.
Ah, okay, okay. I
And
understand what you mean.
with the system setting, we had to add the system
Okay.
setting to create automatic numbers for the section. And let me mention one thing. If you're using the section, if you have the automatic numbers, that system setting has to be shared with portal users. Let me show you what I mean. So otherwise, it's not going to number those processes. So let me find this first. Request. So here's my request mask and current request number. So both of these system settings, what I had to do is allow access for portal users reading.
Okay, okay,
This
makes
is not
sense.
done by default. And so if you're not seeing
Okay.
your mask or the numbers showing up, basically
Okay,
this
right.
is why.
Because when you're loading the page and you're starting the page, you're doing it on behalf of the user who's actually executing, who's a portal user, who would normally be restricted and incapable or unable to read system settings, unlike the typical user. So you need to explicitly allow this. This actually makes perfect sense. But thank you for pointing it out. I would have missed that for sure. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so this is a little thing that you need to keep in mind.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So are you, I assume you've shown us everything that you wanted to show, or is there something else, Lena? Because we're running out of time a little bit.
No, we're pretty much done. We've covered the main things, which is our object permissions, our how the section works, what they get access to. So yeah, we're good.
Okay, perfect. So maybe you can tell me where, if I am so interested and so inclined, where I can get copy of this package. I would like to play around with this and see what's what. Is there a place I can download?
Yes, we are going to publish this package, and the link to the package will be in the description box. So please visit, give us a day or two to publish it, and then come back and we will provide the link. So it's going to be stored there. You can always ask us questions about the solution.
Within a day, it's going to be published, just like episode 1. I assume it's going to be somewhere in the public for public to download. Okay, well, great. Thank you very much, Lena, for your time today, for the time you spent building this demo. That was very educational. I found many different things, and I am looking forward to the next time that you and I will be doing an episode together.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Till next week. Again,
Thank you.
Wednesday at 9 a.m.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirill.